Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Rose.
And I'm Jessica Bun.
We are back with Reacher Season 3. This is our reaction and review for episodes 1, 2, and 3 because Prime Video, you guys give us all of these at once.
Mm-hmm.
How back are we? Are we so back? Are we beyond back? Are we back and then like to another galaxy?
To another galaxy. This is my favorite season so far.
Wow.
I just loved these 3 episodes so much. I mean, I loved season 1 a lot. Season 2, I could kind of take it or leave it. There was a lot of good stuff that I liked. There was stuff I was like, whatever. This season is so good so far. The mystery is solid. The players are solid. That whole opening sequence with Reacher like getting taken and everything to find out that he just set it up. He's like, and I'm in. I'm like, yeah, we are back.
This season's great. It's fantastic. It's stellar. I don't have many notes on it. I will say I have a soft spot in my heart for season 1 just because it's the first. It's the introduction to Reacher. You know, I kind of feel similarly to you about season 2, but I just think season 3 so far, it's so fun. And I think a lot of people prefer the style of season 1 where it's more Reacher's in there by himself, having to make new friends and allies along the way. And, you know, maybe Neely's helping him here and there. And I just think this was such a glorious callback. And it's time to talk about how much I love Alan Ritchson. I
know, he's amazing.
I didn't really know that much about him before Reacher. I know he's been in other stuff. I just happen to not have seen the other stuff. But I can't imagine anyone else playing this role. I would not want anybody else playing this role. I would watch Alan as this character for 20 years and I would have no problem with it. Even if he's like old man Reacher, still punching people in the face. I completely turn my brain off in this show. You guys can do anything and I will be fully on board with it. I don't have any concerns about suspicion of disbelief here.
Yeah, I absolutely love him in this role. I don't see anybody else in this role. And you guys let us know in the comments, who is your favorite Reacher? Is it Alan? Is it Tom Cruise? For me, it's just, there's nobody else but Alan. This is him.
Yeah, I just have so much fun watching him. And even when each season of this show kind of sort of hits a lot of the same beats, like, I don't really care.
Doesn't matter.
We'll get into what's really working so far this season, the questions we still have. But before we do, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We will be here with more of Reacher Season 3 throughout this flex-worthy season. We don't want you guys to miss any of that moving forward.
Absolutely. And thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. We are going to have lots of Reacher going on this season here. And if you want to help support us further, join our Patreon. We'll have a link for you below. We are covering over there exclusively right now The Pit, which is airing on Max. And we are covering Prime Target, which is also a really crazy adventure show that is airing on Apple TV Plus, and it is the only place that you can get those reviews with us.
Thank you guys so much. Let's start off by talking about something you mentioned earlier, which is that opening sequence.
Oh,
because
my goodness.
1, it was so unbelievably lit, but 2, I have a big question for everybody out there. At what point did you think that this was an act or a setup that Reacher had helped to orchestrate? Because I'll speak for me. I didn't know for a little while. The only part that I started to be thrown off on about was that, oh, took out a cop. I was like, okay, that's not really, unless that cop is like really bad or doing some horrible things. That didn't feel like Reacher's MO to me. So it's like something was off at that point, but I still couldn't place what it was.
I bought the whole thing. Sinker, line, hook, all of it. Even the cop, because he played it so well that when he turned around and he just shot, he saw someone coming around the corner. I believe that he just made a mistake, and that can happen. I mean, Reacher's not perfect, and we've seen that throughout the seasons. Like, a lot of the stuff that he does works out, but sometimes things don't work out, and he's able to kind of fix it on the fly sort of thing. So I believed it. I just believed all of it. I'm a sucker.
You're not a sucker. I'm
a sucker.
This show just sucks you in. Like, this is what makes it just such phenomenal entertainment. Like, we have not read the source material here, but it really doesn't matter because it's just so much fun to watch these antics unfold. But the other thing that made this reveal so good was just the editing on it. And when we finally get to the moment where Reacher is just basically being like, I'm in, the quick cut afterwards, just the way that Alan delivers it, it just makes your blood pump regardless of if you knew from the very beginning, halfway through, or didn't know at all. It's just like,
Is
Yes.
anybody else enjoying seeing him with that teeny tiny little phone? He's so big.
Okay, just let's just talk visuals for a moment here. My two favorite Reacher weird funny visual moments are one, that teeny tiny phone.
I love it.
Two, him in the I Lobster Maine shirt that he had on for a couple of minutes. I kind of want that shirt now. I'm just saying. It was just so it's always just so funny because he doesn't have any clothes. So he's always just constantly having to put on whatever's around him. But even though it's kind of a routine bit that we know at this point about him, they just kind of consistently find new ways to make it funny. And I appreciate that so much.
So funny. And just there's something about him. I know this is going to be the weirdest word, but there's something about him that's just so wholesome and so endearing,
I
even
know.
though I know he's a killer and he's done all kinds of things, but there's just something about him.
And let's just go along with that for a moment because this is one of my favorite things about this season. And this is why it does have the potential, at least, to be my favorite season. We'll see where it
Mhm.
goes.
Yep.
But I really like the relationship that he has with Richard. You know, this young guy who's the son of rug businessman Zachary Beck, but we see that whole stunt at the start of this. But I really love this wholesome moment that the two of them are having a little later in these three episodes, where we have this bit with this ice cream, which is hilarious because according to Richard, there's only two acceptable flavors.
Yeah.
But beyond all that, him just sort of telling Richard, I have a very different sort of life. You can
Yep.
have that sort of life. I just love how non-judgmental Reacher is with other people because Richie, whatever you want to call him, like he is obviously the sheltered nerd who hasn't had that great of an experience. People treat him badly. They look down on him. He's just constantly judged. But here is Reacher being like to this person, you can be just like me. What I have is not unobtainable. And no matter what you want, I will be here. I will save your life again. And it's just, there's something so sweet about their relationship. And that is the one bummer with this show is I just have it in the back of my mind. It's like, okay, oh no, Richard could get killed at some point. But even if he doesn't, Reacher's eventually going to move on. And then this bromance is going to be over. I mean, Reacher's always moving on.
I love this relationship as well. There's something very sweet about Richard in general. I
Yeah.
mean, seeing him like, oh, my dad's 50th is coming up, and me too. My birthday is on
Hey,
February 28th. I am also turning 50.
look
But
at you.
it was so sweet to see him going to the toy shop, being like, yeah, my dad talks about this little toy cap gun that he used to have. And what
Yeah.
do you get for the guy who has everything? Some nostalgia, something that really could mean something to him. And to see him go to that length to make sure that he could get this thing in for his dad. There's just something so wonderful about him, seeing him painting out what's just outside his window,
Yeah.
sort of thing. Yeah, oh, you're missing the guardhouse. No, I'm not. It's just nice landscapes. He's looking towards what could be. He knows that he's in this weird position where he is stuck being protected all the time. He can't go anywhere. He can't go anywhere without a bodyguard.
Yeah.
I really loved that conversation with Reacher being like, you can have this too.
It was everything about it was so incredible. And the only
Yeah.
beef I have with Reacher is there are more than two flavors of ice cream, buddy. I'm sorry, I love you, but cookies and cream is the best flavor of ice cream. Let us know the best flavor of ice cream in the comments. Is Reacher right or is Reacher wrong?
Mint chocolate chip, black raspberry.
See?
Oh my goodness.
Open your horizons. Not all of them are just fancy schmancy artisanal ice cream flavors, Reacher.
Although I will say that I am the biggest lavender fan. You can put lavender on an old shoe and I will eat that. I love the flavor of lavender. So, I'll take that ice cream off your hands.
Okay, I probably would too. I'm not as crazy about lavender as you, but
I love it.
one other thing that now if we're moving from things that are very sweet and wholesome to just things that are downright awesome, when Reacher's having this fight scene with these idiots that, are giving Richard a bad time, him breaking the baseball bat in half was quite possibly one of the greatest moments of my television watching life. I watched this happen. I was so turned in that moment. I was just like, yes.
Okay, so let's start to get know some of the new team here.
Yeah.
So we have Duffy that's coming in, and the biggest thing that she is trying to get her hands on is her CI, who is
Yeah.
Teresa, who is involved with, Richard's dad, Zachary. the rug king, we'll call him, the
Yeah.
bazaar, that he's running this whole rug operation that has been now taken over by somebody even higher up than him in Julius, where he was bragging a little too much. "Oh, I can get my rugs back and forth
Yeah.
over the border, no problem. Nobody looks at my stuff." And he just bragged a little too much. And now somebody's like, "Oh, you can get your rugs back and forth? Cool. I'll just take that over from you. Thanks."
Yeah.
And is really forcing him into that situation by having abducted his son in the past,
Yeah.
lobbed his ear off. Is basically like, I can do that again to keep Zachary in line.
Yeah, and how this whole storyline that was constructed that's really smart is that there is a specific reason why Reacher is brought in through, the eyes of Duffy, that he's there to basically try to locate Teresa. And however that happens, I mean, there could be some sort of twist related to Teresa down the road. Is she all that she's supposed to be? Who knows about some of that?
Yeah, I mean, Duffy really feels like she was like right there, about to get everything, about to
Yeah.
take it all down. But because one of the newer team members that she has, did some misstep with the map and is calling him Magellan. And here's a story time for you
Yeah.
guys. So when I was born,
Hmm.
my dad wanted to call me Caledonia because of the BB King song. And my
Yeah.
mom wanted to call me Magellan. So this could have really gone sideways. But luckily, my grandmother stepped in and was just told my hippie parents no and was like, "You're naming her Jessica after the nurse on General Hospital." So luckily, we could have been having a very different Magellan discussion right now.
As somebody who Kalel was a name that was up for consideration for me.
Oh, Matt.
I think even just
Kalal and Magellan.
even though not a same rolling off the tongue YouTube channel name, like I'll throw that out there right now. I think even though I wasn't named Kalel, I think still some of the possible consequences of being named Kalel still rubbed off on me by osmosis, and I still
Right.
kind of ended up this way because of it. But beyond all of this, what makes this all so interesting, just from a motivation standpoint, is that
Mhm.
this Julius McCabe figure really actually seems to be Quinn, this guy from
Yeah.
Reacher's past, who's
Yeah.
played by Brian T, who is on Chicago Med. We've spoken to Brian over the years. Like, I like Brian a lot. I'm excited to see him cook on this season, but it
Brian's
is
great.
like there is this sort of bigger bad that's lurking behind everything
Yeah.
that's going to give Reacher this other motivation to really be gung ho into this.
Yeah.
I am so thrilled for where that is going, but let's talk about the Anthony Michael Hall part of this right now, because he is beloved. I'm already surprised that he's kind of a little bit, he's not a paper tiger, but his role in this show is a little different than I anticipated coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember him from back in the day with all the 16 Candles and
Yeah.
films like that I grew up on. I mean, he was an icon back then. He still is now. It was really cool to see him sort of in this role where it's like, yeah, he's the guy in charge. He's the big man in charge, and he's plays a really tough guy. Very different role from what we've seen from him in the past
Yeah.
in movies like, 16 Candles and stuff like that. But seeing that he's actually not the top tough guy, that there is somebody else who's pulling the strings on him, and that him and his son really kind of are prisoners in this now of his own making. Like I
Yeah.
said, he was bragging about how he can get his carpets back and forth, and it was only a matter of time before somebody came and took advantage of him.
Yeah.
But the two of them really are stuck in this spot now where together they do have to depend on each other to get through it okay. And there is no escape.
Yeah, it's a fascinating dynamic that's set up now, because they don't know obviously the whole truth about Reacher, but the reality here is, even if they do find out the full truth about Reacher, especially if you're Zachary, you're still probably going to have to work with Reacher, because he might be the only person to get you out of this situation.
Yeah, I'm really excited that they had pulled back the curtain on this nice and early, that
Yeah.
it wasn't just what it looks like, that it's not just Zachary's the bad guy
Yeah.
and Reacher's got to come in and help save his son away from, bad guy dad. He's more complicated than that. He really was just a rug king that's now turned into this because of what's happening, and that he is being puppeted and held prisoner here.
Here is the mildly silly part of all of this that I can overlook because it's Reacher and you kind of have to overlook everything.
Right.
That all of a sudden, all of Zachary's bodyguards are suddenly starting to drop left and right, and here is Reacher who's just magically just shown up and is moving up the ranks, and there doesn't seem to be any sort of questioning on the part of Zachary. It's just like, all these people are suddenly dropping like flies right after you showed up, Reacher. I guess you're my number two now.
I loved that. And I kind of get it because they have set up
Yeah.
that Zachary is somebody who will brag about his business and
Yeah.
get got. And did he learn a lesson from it? No, not really. He still is somebody that while he shouldn't trust anybody who just comes along, he is somebody who will still do something like that. They set it up that it makes it believable that he would be like, okay, I guess I'm going to trust this, especially after hearing what happened with the baseball bat, what
Yeah.
happened with the kids that came after his son. His son is number one. It feels like it's not the business anymore. It's not
Yeah.
the money anymore. It's just Zachary and Richard. They are there for each other. We saw how much Richard really cares about him,
Yeah.
willing to get that cap gun for him, really wants to dive into the heart of his dad. His dad is there for him as well. And I think that that is his number one. It doesn't, none of this other stuff really matters. So Reacher made the right choice by standing up for the son,
Yeah.
to show Zachary that he is there for the right reasons. He is there for the son, and that is all Zachary really cares about.
I think this season we're probably going to be exploring a lot this idea of family and what it means, the
Yep.
bond between father and son here. And we know that Reacher, he's a wanderer. He doesn't really have that much he considers to be family, but I think he is going to take stock in some shape or form with the people who are closest to him. And I think it's
Yeah.
going to at least bring him on a little bit of a journey. And that's why I'm glad we are still seeing Neely in some shape or form.
Yes, the
But-
closest he's got to family.
It is, and I love her. And, for those who
Yeah.
don't know, it seems like there is a Neely spinoff that's coming at some point, which could be really fun. I think Reacher's probably
Can't
going to
wait.
show up over there as well. So I'm glad that element is still there. But it's time to ask a very big question of everyone out there. And in addition to discussing ice cream, you can leave this in the comments
Yeah.
too. What episode are Reacher and Duffy hooking up? I have episode 5. Like, it's obviously going to happen. This is another thing with Reacher where we just have to accept it. Every season, he's going to hook up with somebody who is kind of involved in the case. He's going to punch people. He's going to end up okay.
Yeah, I'll say episode 5 as well. I think that it's gonna happen. They want to have Alan have his clothes off as much as possible. And I mean, we already have had that where
I
he was
know.
winning and he's walking down the street in his underwear or whatever, but it's obviously gonna happen, and that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's what this show is. It's just funny sometimes with the "are you kidding me" aspect of it, where you've got like him in his boxers just standing there on the street. She's trying to like give him some element of modesty, and it's just like, okay, the tension's already here. We know where this is going, guys, but it's fine. It's what the show is. And this is what I, in a weird way, I do kind of like about Reacher, is just that we already cover a lot of shows that we know are going to be taking us through loops and having us
Yep.
question everything. We love stuff like Severance, and we love stuff like Paradise on Hulu, but it is
Yeah.
also valuable sometimes to just have a show where you know what you're going to get coming into it, and that's fine. You know it's going to be the best version of what you want.
Absolutely. It reminds me a lot of Prime Target, which is something that we're covering over on our Patreon,
Yeah.
which is just a really fun action adventure show where you're being taken on an adventure. And that's what's happening here as well. We are going on with Reacher on this adventure and what is going to be happening here. And it is fine. Like, we know he's going to hook up with Duffy.
Yeah.
We know he's going to save the day. I feel pretty confident that Richard and Zachary are going to be okay, and they're going to go off and be able to be broken free from Quinn. And,
Yeah.
he's going to get Quinn. Everything is going to wrap up, but it's about the friends we made along the way. And it is about the adventure and just going along with the ride. We know how it's going to end up. That's fine. I want to see it wrap up in a bow where we have Reacher get on his next bus to go to where he's going next time.
I'm just still laughing about you doing the friends along the
That's
what that is
right.
me doing the this is me doing the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the screen meme. No, but I think really the big question mark for me that's just remaining is at what point do you have the Reacher Quinn face off? Because this is one of those
Yep.
things you have to time off. Because if you do it too early and either one of them die, then it becomes the question of like, okay, well then why didn't one of them die? Because it feels like with their history, the moment they go head to head, like all bets are off. So they do have to be careful when it comes to the pacing of that. They can't give us everything we want right away.
Yeah, I mean, also if Julius is this difficult to get to, then it should be difficult for Reacher to get there as well. It should
Yeah.
take a little while. I mean, he was able to get into this compound pretty quickly, even with big guy Paulie there as
Yes.
well. It's just it can't be that easy for him to get to Julius. It seems like Julius has been a pretty mysterious figure here,
Yeah.
and him with Quinn in general trying to get to him, it hasn't happened. It needs to take a little while to unfold. I'm
I,
here for the journey.
I am too. And I must admit, I am ashamed to not have a conversation about Big Guy Paulie yet in
The
this
big
video
Paulie.
because like this is the perfect thing that Reacher does so well, where it is just like, what do we know about Reacher? Oh, he's a big, strong dude. What are we going to do? We're going to bring in the biggest, strongest dude
Amazing.
imaginable. This actor is 7'2". His nickname is the Dutch Giant. And in addition to the baseball bat thing, my other favorite moment of these first few episodes, it's the arm wrestling match. And it's a reminder that yes, Reacher can beat the snot out of most people, but even for the people who he can't beat the snot out of, he's still smart enough to kind of know there is another way. He's not just some meathead, and that's what
Yep.
makes him such a good character.
100%. That scene was so fun. I knew it was coming the
Yeah.
minute he was like, "Let me hold your hand." I'm like, this guy's gonna punch himself in the face. I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
And it delivered entirely. I'm really excited and waiting for the moment though that these two do go head to head, because
Oh, it's coming.
it's coming. It can't not come. You have two of the biggest dudes. Let's just have that fight. I cannot wait.
I want there to be a scene where you're starting with maybe Reacher like smashes a chair over his head and the wood's just falling all around Polly and Polly's not phased at all.
Yep.
And he just continues
Can't
to
wait.
go at it. It's going to be so fun. We're both like so high on this clearly.
Especially also since we know that Polly was partially responsible for what happened to Richard.
Yeah.
He was the person who actually helped abduct him, cut his ear off, all of that stuff. He's put in there in place to make sure that Zachary and Richard stay in line. So he is a bad dude.
And that makes sense that if you are someone like Quinn, you are going to have access to the baddest dudes imaginable.
Right.
I'm sure there are not a lot of 7'2" Dutch giants that are just wandering around that you can bring on board.
He's great. I'm so excited.
Okay, well, that's where we are coming out of these first few episodes of Reacher Season 3. Clearly, we're having a good time. Are you
Yep.
guys having a good time with this season? Where do you think it's going to go? Oh, no spoilers from the book, please, but be sure to
No.
let us know in the comments and hit that subscribe button for more. And you can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description below. Like Jess has said, we're covering their Prime Target and The Pit exclusively. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you here next time.